Hey guys, this is Group 5. The topic of our activity is the ideal job. First, I'll give you a brief overview of our activity. Part 1. General description. This is an English activity which is designed for P5 students, and there are two learning outcomes as you can see here. Let's move on to the next part, the aims. You can pause here for a little while to get more details. Now, let's take a brief glance to the next page. These are some keywords which will be mentioned frequently later in our presentation. Okay, let's move on to the part 2, implementation and theoretical justification.
The second part is about the implementation plan and the theoretical justification. Our learning activity involves 7 steps for 6 weeks. Let's look into this step by step. In this page, the left column is the activity steps and the rest parts are the corresponding procedures in each step, targeted HOTS and theoretical support. Prior to the in-class activities, we apply the flipped classroom model, which means students should do some pre-learning before class using some instructional materials like videos or some paperwork to get familiar with the learning topic and grab some subject content. And therefore, in-class time can be allocated to higher level learning rather than just lecturing. An empirical study in a public secondary school in Hong Kong shows that it is possible to improve students' high-order thinking ability using the flipped classroom approach to teaching. Students in this study also found it more interesting than the traditional way. Yet it also points out that to make it an effective flipped classroom, the design is very important, which means the pre-learning doesn't equal to just putting up some videos online for students to watch, and the in-class activities require teachers to properly facilitate, to guide students to realize an effective process of active learning, the active construction of knowledge. So, as researchers have found, flipped classroom model facilitates to use time primarily in the top layers of Bloom's taxonomy. So in our design for Set 1 pre-learning, students are asked to watch assigned videos, get familiar with the topic, preview grammar and words, finish online quizzes, make a survey, and write a composition as a pre-test. Throughout these 3 steps, students can be fully prepared for in-class activities. And step 2 comes to the in-class part. Students will have group discussion, and teachers will help students to present their ideas through concept mapping. In this process, analysis is needed. Students need to distinguish or select useful information and organize in a rational way. The theoretical support here is about concept mapping, a widely used visual representation of how we organize isolated ideas into a clear network, and studies illustrate that creating a concept map requires a clear understanding of how ideas are related. It is a cognitive skill that cannot be accomplished simply through memorization, but demands students to consider in a metacognitive way.
Hi, this is Zhang Zhiling, responsible for Step 3 and 4. Step 3 is generally reading-based. Existing studies suppose that reading includes different levels of thinking, both basic and higher-order thinking. Here we refer to the NAEP reading framework. It portrays reading as a multi-stage process. Readers establish literal understanding, interpret meaning, and use the constructive meaning in other tasks. And here we can see higher order thinking increasingly kick in as the reading tasks moving from easy to complex. So on the basis of literal understanding, we design inference tasks where students comprehend information implied by the text using their ability to distinguish. There is also claim evidence analysis, where students identify the author's claim, determine the explicit or implicit reasoning, and integrate the claim and evidence together into a coherent argument. Claim evidence critique is for students to critically reflect the effectiveness of the author's use of their structure. In the perspective of teacher, students' higher order thinking can be assessed through their performance using a grade performance rubric. Here we give an example of a possible rubric. Okay, so the next part is to provoke students' deep inquiry in people's opinions about jobs. Teachers firstly present students the results of their survey in their pre-learning and the latest survey results about how teenagers thinking of their ideal jobs. So students in groups discuss how opinions differ between generations and why people think so. This activity is aimed to triggering students' differentiating and attributing ability. In the process, a graphic organizer, as we can see now, on one hand serves as a facilitator to help students organize and broaden their thoughts, just as the Harkirat study shows. On the other hand, they also provide evidence for teachers to assess their performance.
Now, let's move on to the step 5. Students will receive a task at the end of class, which is a 1-week-long group investigation. It can be regarded as a cooperative learning, and these have been proven to help students' higher thinking skills here. Furthermore, the students got much prior knowledge from step 1 to 4, but they may still have some questions. At this point, we give them these tasks to foster the HLTs more effectively because according to this article, it's the right time to do so. Plus, students will also receive a checklist as a scaffold from their teacher, from which they can learn how to evaluate their own performance. According to this research, as you can see some details here, these highlight parts can prove that our activities can be regarded as an enacted HOTS activity. Finally, students will submit group presentation. Well, how to ensure that students can improve their HLTs, especially say creating by designing a presentation? We find the answer in this research. I've highlighted some information in this article, and you can get some more details. To put it simply, in order to prove students' higher order thinking skills, we designed these teaching with thinking activities in step 5. When students show their final presentation, we can draw the conclusion that their hearts have been improved in this process.
Hello, I'm Sophie Lu Yan. Now let's move on to the step 6, evaluation. Firstly, with this peer evaluation form, students will evaluate other groups' presentation. It's said that peer learning and peer assessment are quite effective in terms of developing students' critical thinking. And then, teacher will give oral feedback to each group. Finally, students will also evaluate their own performance with this self-reflection form. Studies show that self-assessment can involve students in their own destiny and encourage autonomy. In other words, students can better monitor their performance, and their self-regulated ability will be enhanced. Now let's move on to the final step. In this step, students will be asked to write an individual composition, and the topic is the ideal job in 10 years. And please note that at the very beginning, teacher will give students a self-checklist, which includes a series of questions to guide their writing, like did I write about a topic, did I use details? Studies show that use of questions could generate students' critical thinking and their writing process. And then, teacher will also give one-to-one written feedback on writing drafts. Studies show that written feedback can help students improve writing quality and skills and encourage critical reasoning in second language writing. So, we believe that by comparing students' drafts before and after revision with the help of teacher, we can surely see the students' improvement in their higher order thinking, like producing and critical thinking skills. Okay, that's all for the 7 steps of our learning activity. Now let's move on to the assessment scheme, which, as you can see, consists of 3 approaches. They are assessment for learning, of learning, and as learning. And these are the 2 expected learning outcomes as mentioned before. Here are the references. At the end, we want to say, learning should never be cold, rigid, and boring. Let's make it hot. Thank you for watching.